Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86. Here you will find everything from your favorite characters from anime, series or movies, such as figures, statues, trading cards, and other limited special edition items. I will show you everything that is included. For example, we will discuss the design of the box, how it's packaged, the design of the figure, the articulation points, the accessories that are included, and we will see our favorite characters in special scenes. And you never know, you might see other characters make special guest appearances, so you can decide whether it's worth getting or not. Subscribe and join me on new weekly adventures. Now let's start the show. Let's go. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86 and today from BUZZmod and Demon Slayer I present to you Genya Shinazugawa. On the front of the box you can see the figure with all the accessories that are included with them. This is as he appeared in the Swordsmith Village arc. The BUZZmod figure is designed with the dark purple and black, which highlights Genya's primary colors. On the back side you have the figure doing different poses, and he comes with the accessory of the double barrel shotgun and the Nichiren sword. On this one I feel like the stock photos didn't really do the figure justice, so let's give this figure a try and see what BUZZmod actually did here. Genya comes packaged in two blister packs. As you see, the first one has the figure, the different expressions, the hand gestures, as well as the accessories. But the second one has the mohawk, the mat that normally comes with all these Demon Slayer figures, as well as the two different legs showing the knees bent. One thing to note, Genya's packaging is very similar to Sanemi Shinazugawa, if you guys remember that video we did earlier. So we see the same strategy being applied here. The figure no longer has separators between the joints, and the different hands come in this plastic tree to kind of help organize them, versus before where they were just taped over, similar to what you see on the face expressions. So now we're starting to see a change in the pattern of how BUZZmod started to package these Demon Slayer figures. So here's something interesting looking at the different hand gestures. This is something that I didn't notice from the Wind Hashiras. If you look at it, you can divide the section into two as they're interlocking pieces, so I guess this is how they come off the assembly line. The other thing to note is he does have two hand gestures that are very similar if you concentrate on the ones on the left, but one shows it with the demon fingernails while the other one shows it regular. So it's just something to note of what options they gave you. All the other ones show regular human hands. Then you have the one in the center dedicated for holding the double barrel shotgun. Here's a quick pass at the instructions that come with Genya. So again, they're black and white. So the first section I guess is showing you how to remove the face. The second one is how to remove the arms and the legs. If you look on the side, it shows you an introduction to the sword. Then it's got two pegs there, which I think that is for holding the Nichiren sword. Then at the bottom it shows you how to put his little outfit on. Then finally it shows you how to swap out the hands and attaching the special effect part for the shotgun. So in this section regarding the two little small pegs for attaching the sheath to the body, you have two different ones. The small one is used to fix it to when he's not wearing the sheath, so that one attaches to the back side of the pants. So in order to get that one you have to remove the legs and remove that little section from the figure altogether. If you use that method, it gives you a warning that you could damage the figure if you do certain poses. But then it gives you the second method, which is the one with the bigger peg that has the square base. On that one it attaches directly to the Hiyori, and by using that one it seems to be the much easier one if you want to do dynamic poses. So it does give you two options based on how you want to display the figure. This is the 360 of Genya straight out of the box. For starters, his body doesn't follow the typical Demon Slayer figure that we've seen. For example, if you compare it to his brother, the legs on this one, they're a lot slimmer, which they look like actual normal legs. He does not have the pear shape that we've seen on other Demon Core Slayers. The other thing to note is on his outfit, it's like an olive green type color. So hopefully the camera can reflect that. And the other thing that's different here is basically how the knees are cut. If you look at it, Genya actually has a one section cut on the knee compared to the other Demon Slayer figures. So we'll see how that impacts the articulating points. The other thing that we see towards the torso between the chest and the abdominals, you can see that the cut is different. He's basically got like a circular shape type of cut in the center For example, if you was to draw a circle in the center, you will basically see that the cut marks follow that. This is something that we also saw similar to his brother, so maybe that's a different type of articulation that BUZZmod has discovered to give the figure a better range of motion, but we'll take a look at that. Follow me on IG at Titandel86. The other thing is, if you look at his feet, this is the first time where it looks like he's actually wearing socks versus the typical shoes that we've seen the Demon Core Slayers wear. Now let's check out what articulation points come with Genya. So overall, he's got good movement on the head, and for the hair you can see that it's got articulation, so it goes up and down, and then you could also rotate it. You see that? You are limited by the angles just because of how the hair is styled, with the long spikes coming off from the top piece. So that tells you the type of motion that you're going to be able to get when you're trying to move the hair. But at least you can pull it all the way up to basically allow Genya to give him the maximum range of looking up. And this is as far as you can look down, and then the hair can accommodate that. And then it gives you nice full range for left and right and so forth. So he's got some really good articulation there. This is as straight as the arms go. He's got the double joint feature here, so you can see that. 360 on the arm. There's your cross arm range. Same thing on the back. You can get 360 from the elbow, since the bicep and the shoulder is not really broken up into two different sections. And this is as much as you're going to get out of the elbow. And again, because the way the pinion's done, that's where you get the angles for the forearm. And basically all these articulation points are probably going to be lost once we attach the clothing article. 360 of the wrist, up and down, so that's really good. This is your chest movement. And also you have the torsional rotation, so this is as much as you can bend them. And this is in the opposite end. You get good side movement. The leg not so much, but this is as high as it goes. You're basically forcing it because this is that soft plastic. So this is as far back as it goes. Here's your split. There's your thigh rotation. There's the knee, full range. Which honestly, I was expecting more actually. I think if they would have added a third joint here, you would have seen that. But because it chose the ball joint, it does allow you to rotate a little bit there. You see that? For the ankles, there's outboard, inboard, which are beyond phenomenal, which I don't even think they're realistic at all. But I think that comes from the shape. If you see, it's got that U shape, so that's what's going to give you the limiting factor there. And you see that because this is as low as it goes, and this is as high. And then for the toes, max and minimum. So I think this is probably where we're going to struggle with this figure as far as getting articulation points. And as you see there, the pinion is there for up and down, so maybe we can just manipulate it. You see that? Very difficult. As you see, it comes off, but it does go up and it goes down. It's just going to be very difficult because of the way the joint is. If you see how the joint is, it's got like an L shape. And here you can see the pattern. You see that? But it's really stiff, and because of how it comes in sideways like a sandal, it's going to make it difficult. And especially with these 2 points of contact here, there's also going to add more to the difficulty. But it's there. It's just not a very good one. And as you can see, it's probably going to get a bunch of scuff marks here, especially once we're done with the figure. So overall, the articulation points, they're very similar to other Demon Slayer figures. He does have some unique portions of it, but I think because of what we've seen on other BUZZmod figures, I think this one's not as articulated as compared to the rest of them. And there you have it. Here's an overview of all the different expressions that come with Genya, and I also gave you a close-up of his Nichiren sword as well as his double barrel shotgun. The first expression is basically the one for comic relief, which is basically like a surprised, shameful expression, which doesn't really match the character's personality, but here it is. The second one is more of a friendly expression with a smile on it, which to me this one looks really like an oddball one. Again, I don't think we saw this type of expressions coming from Genya, but maybe I might have missed it or do not recall it. The next one is the more devious expression, where you can see a giant smile coming off of Genya, and as well as some intensity in the eyes. And this one really captures the character that he really is, especially during fight scenes. The next one is, I want to say it's an action expression one, but it's also showing kind of like a disappointment look. The next one is basically like a teeth grinding action expression that shows Genya after he has eaten some demon flesh. If you recall, upon consuming demon flesh, he gains some of the demonic properties. So these two are basically similar expressions to each other. One thing to note on the Nichiren sword, if you look at it closely, it doesn't have any markings towards the base, which is something that we have seen common on all the other Demon Core fighters. The other thing is, looking at it, it looks a little bit smaller than the other Demon Slayer Nichiren swords that we have seen in the past. So overall, they gave us a good range of expressions. They gave us 5 of them to include with this figure. The one drawback that I see is, honestly, in my opinion, I think they could have given us a better range of expressions versus the ones that they picked. Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts. I think they could have did a little bit more with the figure as far as facial expressions go. Here's a quick side-by-side comparison between Saname, the Wind Hashiras sword, along with Genya's. So as you can see, Genya's sword is a lot smaller than Saname's. It also doesn't have any designs on it. The Tsuba is basically bland, and the one key thing to note is it doesn't have the engravings near the bottom of the base. I would almost say the sword is probably a fraction. If you was to cut the sword into 4 sections, you will see that 1/4 of the sword is missing from the one owned by Genya, and that basically goes again why Genya is not really a swordsman as far as using breathing styles, and why he mostly relies on his double barrel shotgun, and that's probably why the sword doesn't need to be that long anyway. On this one, I gave them the comic shouting expression, and here I added Tanjiro with his other comic expression as well. So on this scene, Tanjiro was approaching Genya to show how he has changed and how he's more sensitive and he's more of a team player and he sees him as a friend, while Genya is refuting back to him, which is something that we saw throughout the series. Is both of these characters, their personalities tend to clash at certain times, and you know how Tanjiro is, always trying to find the friendly soft side of a person. So here's basically Kenya's rebuttal. The mat is something that is common across all these BUZZmod figures from Demon Slayer. So each one comes with a mat that is carved out to match the bottom print that each figure has, unique to their own body styles based on their outfit. So Genya is no exception. It follows the same BUZZmod formula of including the mat. And if you haven't seen my review of this Tanjiro figure from BUZZmod, I suggest you go check it out. And if you happen to also be questioning the S.H.Figuarts variant, I also did that review, so also go check that one out so you can see which Tanjiro is the better one between BUZZmod and S.H.Figuarts. The other reason I did this scene is so you can see the BUZZmod body styles. Genya's body style is more slimmer, and as you can see, Tanjiro has that pear shape. He is very bottom heavy to basically give him this super thick legs, and you can see this Tanjiro has a butt. Which honestly, that is basically what the pear shape is, right? You're light on the top side but very heavy on the bottom side. The other thing you can note here is the different cutouts that I mentioned on the torso, where Tanjiro just has one that separates the abdominals from the chest. So those are 2 key differences that you can see between the 2 figures as BUZZmod evolved, the Tanjiro being the first figure that they released versus Genya, which is the latest one at this point.
Don't ever call me by my first name!
These rice crackers are tasty. Want one?
Damn you!
This is a scene from Demon Slayer the musical. I know you never heard of it, but in this one, Genya just did his one solo performance act here. So here you can see how he's basking in the glory of his top performance. The boy can sing. This one I gave him the happy expression that's got the semi-smile on it, which honestly it just looks so out of character, so that's why the Demon Slayer core group decided to have an opera play, and this is Genya taking the spotlight during his solo performance, just showing that not only is he a Demon Slayer, but he also has great talent in the musical arts, as well as acting too. And I did this one just taking into account that Genya is one of the few BUZZmod figures from the Demon Slayer line that can actually look all the way up without having hard interference because of the hairstyle. So in this one, with the hair articulated in the up direction, Genya is able to look up to get this standing ovation. The other thing I did is attach the sword inside the knitting on his back, just how the instructions show. So this one was using the small pinion that goes on the belt. I did that just so you can see how the figure will look like with the sheath attached there. To get it in there, obviously you have to remove the two legs, but then you have to remove the crotch portion of it. So that section is made out of the soft rubber plastic. So if you angle the two pegs for the legs to a certain angle, then you can easily slide it off and on. My recommendation would be to slide it off, put the little pinion inside the hole, and then attach the sheath and then slide it back on. Because if you wait to the end to attach it, you're gonna realize that when you're trying to attach the sheath, that the pinion might actually recess back, and then you have to start all over again. So that is my advice to you there.
Look here, I told you to stop being so.
Hold that thought.
For this scene, I have Genya in mid-action as he is about to fire his double-barrel gunshot, and on the other hand, he's about to draw his knitting sword. I gave them the expression that shows the menacing giant smile. I don't know why, but in this expression, he looks really crazy. One thing to note, to attach the knitting sword on the back, I used the square peg that came with the figure. If you look at the fabric on his outfit, there's a small hole, and that is what the pinion goes through. That way you can attach the sword sheath to the back of Genya. Either way, you could attach it before you put the outfit on Genya, or you could do it afterwards, because there's enough room in the fabric to allow you to push it through. The other thing that I noticed is the fabric is very smooth. Honestly, I was expecting the fabric to be really rugged, similar to how we've seen it on other of the BUZZmod figures. The only one that actually had a smooth fabric similar to this one was the one that came with Shinobu. If you haven't checked out that video, I suggest you go check it out. That was a really good BUZZmod figure, and up to this point it's still one of my favorite ones. And we'll see how that figure does once we get the S.H.Figuarts variant. As far as fabric comparisons go, the one that Genya has is really smooth. It's not as smooth as Shinobu's, but it comes second. Compared to all the other Haoris that came with the other figures that were very rough cut and very rugged, this one stands out as much better. The one thing to note, it only has the wire on the bottom side, and it seems to be sewn together towards the midpoint of the center on the front, so you can't open it or anything else. One thing that helps the figure is that it's short sleeves, so you don't lose that much arm articulation, as you can see here. It doesn't super bind the figure because it's very soft. It's not rugged to where it takes control of the dynamic poses.
Someone's on the roof. Genya.
For this scene, I have Genya with the action expression where he shows the frustration. I have him with his knitting sword drawn out while he's still holding his double barrel shotgun. One thing to note, the sword that Genya has is a lot shorter than the regular swords that the other Demon Slayers have. And I think that is one of the things that makes Genya a little bit separate from the rest of them, is because to my knowledge he's the only one that actually uses a gun in his fighting techniques instead of relying on the sword. And that would also explain why his sword is a lot shorter than the rest of them, since technically it's not really something that he fully relies on. The bullets that he uses are made from the same material that the knitting swords are, so they have the same effect to killing the demons. The other reason why I think he relies on the shotgun more than the actual sword is because he lacks the requirements for the total concentration breathing, meaning he's not really focused. So the only thing he relies on is repetitive action, which is something that he learned from the Stone Hashira. The one thing that is really frustrating on this figure is the way they did the ankles. I really don't like how they did the joint there. It makes the articulating points on the ankles and the up-down direction very frustrating, especially on how they did the leg cuts on the pants. They just don't seem to coexist. And then the other thing is, if you are not really careful, the ankles come off really easily because the pinions are not that long. And at least on my figure, the articulation point there is very stiff. I do like that it gives you a very good angle in the 4F, but it seems like they sacrifice the up and down direction, which makes it frustrating when trying to balance the figure, because you're just not getting that joint at the ankles to really help out. For this scene, I have Genya in his demon form. In case you didn't know, once Genya eats demon flesh, he basically gains the special demon abilities based on the demon characteristics that he eats. and this is because he has a special bite and special digestive organs which allow him to do such things. So this is him after he ate some demon flesh from Upper 4. So I have him here with the action expression. You have the demon face there, and even the hair changed colors. You can see now his hair got the yellow tips on it. So here I have him running towards a demon while firing his double barrel shotgun and ready to do a second strike with his nurturing sword. So with Genya having this type of skill, basically makes up for his inability to do concentrated breathing. I do like that they gave them the accessory weapons along with the action effect for the double barrel shotgun. For attaching that effect, it only goes on one side of the barrel, so you cannot portray them shooting both barrels at the same time. If you look closely, you can bias it either to the left or to the right. The one thing I do want to make clear is that the figure does look a lot better than the stock photos. So if the stock photos were the ones that were keeping you from getting the figure, then I suggest you go for it. Unless you want to wait for S.H.Figuarts and see what they do. Since to me, I'm more on the 50-50. The figure did have improvements, but it also has some setbacks that BUZZmod shouldn't have been doing, since those drawbacks were not present in the other BUZZmod figures from this Demon Slayer line. But the other killer thing for this figure, at least on my figure, is the joints. The joints are very stiff. It's good to a certain extent, but it's also bad to another extent. This is all I have for you today. If you like what you have seen, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and I'll see you next week with the brand new one. Thank you and bye.